Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Corner Pod, wherein we talk about all things football. I'm Harikeshav, and this episode feels like an absolute treat as we have all the viewers' favorite guests. So we have with us my trusted friend and co-founder of the channel, Amok.
Hi,
Hey
hi.
Amok, to have you back after a spell of
True.
absence. So good to see
Yeah.
you as well. And then we also have with us our viewers' favorite, as I said, and our own Deepu Narayanan, the statman of this channel and a dear friend as well.
Hey.
Welcome, Krishnan. Another guest that we had to bring because of Everton, the news surrounding Everton. The first ever guest that we had on the channel when we started out as a beloved Toffee fan as well. So welcome to the pod,
Hi everyone,
Sudanba as well.
and good afternoon slash evening or night.
Brilliant. Thank you all for joining us today, and we cannot wait to dive into the episode. So, in today's episode, we will do a Premier League roundup and talk about Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, and Everton. But we will also add a transfer tidbits because it's January. So, strap in, stay tuned, and I believe it's going to be a fantastic episode. So, let us start with Chelsea. Chelsea have hit a bit of a brick wall and are winless in four in the last Premier League, the last four Premier League games that they have played. From an outside perspective, all these matches felt like they were winnable. But what seems to be the issues, and is it something that Maresca can fix?
The last 4 game weeks have been really frustrating for us. And I cannot attribute it to one specific reason. I think it is for you to win a game, both your defense and your attack have to contribute. And in the last 4 games, both have not been happening. Yeah. We have not been getting as many goals as we should be. We didn't score against Ipswich. We scored one against Fulham. We scored one against Crystal Palace, and we did not score against Everton. Yeah, that is just 3 goals that we have scored in the last 4 games. Yeah, and defense has been very unorganized. I think that is where we are losing out on points. For example, in the Fulham game, also we conceded two very late goals, and against Ipswich, our
Hmm.
defense was
Yeah.
totally clueless. Against Everton, I know Goodison Park away is always a difficult fixture, but we should have converted. Jackson should have converted that chance, and I think it is, as I said, it is not just I would attribute it to one factor, but it is like all three parts of the machine that is failing: your defense, your attack, and your midfield as well. We have not been at our absolute best. Players have been out of position. Players have felt out of position, and I don't think this is a long term issue. I think Maresca understands the seriousness of this situation. And I think Bournemouth at home will be a tricky game, but I expect him to set things right before that game. And I think we should get back to track. What is more alarming was we were just 2 points behind Liverpool a few game weeks ago. And as much as we wanted to be modest that we are not in the title race, now we're definitely not in the title race. We are in fourth position with Forest above us and Arsenal above us. And but I don't think it is a cause of concern. It's not a huge cause of concern now. I think with the squad strength that we have, I think we will get back to track very soon.
Okay, that's brilliant that you touched upon these points as well, Krishnan, because, when we talked about it previously and you mentioned, I think Vijay was on the podcast, he mentioned, Maresca mentioned that we are not in a title race and it looks like the players have taken it a bit too seriously. But how much important it is to not lose out a bit of steam such that getting to the title is one thing, but then having a lot of winless streaks and not missing out on top four is top four the minimum goal that Chelsea should achieve this season, Amok?
Mm, yeah, with the stats, what Krishnan said, I think we we need two positions to fill. Okay, one striker
Oh,
and one more center back.
yeah.
Except that, I think we are good in all the. We are covering with backups and all. So
Mhm.
for us in striker position, we have Jackson, but we
Yeah.
don't. We definitely don't have the actual backup for Jackson. We have a guy called,
Mhm.
but he's just
Yeah.
18 years old who was playing for Barca last season, La Masia and all. I saw the game also today against Morecambe. So he had only around 8 to 9 touches the whole match. That's it. With that guy, I don't think we'll be competing for at least top two. Forget title
Hmm.
race. I'm talking about second, third place. With
Okay.
now Manchester City having signing all three guys, Marmoush, Kusanov, and one more guy, Vitor Royce. I think probably he will be joining in summer. So with these two guys, I think probably Man City will be fighting for second and third place.
Hmm.
Arsenal are already second. I think they'll just go and go. So for fourth place, there's a competition. There's us. I think Nottingham Forest are also doing good this season in a good form. So for that, we need at least a striker. I don't
Hmm.
see Chelsea signing a striker this month. So if we sign a striker, then yeah, so top four is definitely on cards. But now with
Hmm.
Jackson only, I mean, he's not in form also this time. So I don't see fourth place is guaranteed for Chelsea. So
Wow.
it's
Hmm.
a stretch. People say that top four is secured and all, but I don't see it.
Bit of a pessimistic view, wouldn't you say, Amo, considering where Chelsea were? Because I feel like Chelsea have got the players, right? They've got the players. I think there's a slight tweak. Before the podcast, Krishnan and I were discussing that. Krishnan pointed out that basically Cole Palmer is not playing in his preferred position on the wings, but playing more centrally, which then inhibits a bit of his game and playing style, and he's not the kind of player who is holding the ball as much in the central position. Do you think a tweak in those would activate Chelsea to create more and
So
score
the thing is, we have
goals,
a
Krishnan?
squad, right? So it is, I think Maresca should use that
Yep.
squad to his strength to actually try out different combinations. For example, like even an Nkunku and a Palmer combination, or a Palmer and a Felix combination, or a Pedro Neto and a Felix combination. In contrary to what Amok said, I'm not too worried about your goals because we have more than one source to get our goals. Even before this podcast started, I told the exact same thing to Haribai actually. If not Jackson, we have Nkunku. If not Nkunku, we have Palmer. If not Palmer, we have Felix. If not Felix, we have Pedro Neto. If not Pedro Neto, we have Madueke. The bigger problem lies in the defense. Not that attack is not a problem for us. Yes, it is. Jackson's form is definitely a concern. But I think the bigger question to answer, or the bigger space to fill, is the defense. So if you get one established center back, I think that would, and like a good goalkeeper. Yeah, I wouldn't rate Sanchez and Jorgensen as one of the top two goalkeepers in the Premier League right now. Sanchez is nowhere even close to the top six or seven goalkeepers in the Premier League as of today. Let's be very honest about it. And I think you need one solid centre back who can actually partner with Levi Colwill. I wouldn't rely on Reece
Mhm.
James because Reece James, I think, is almost as good as he's done for this season. Sorry?
He's Susanwa actually. Susanwa also does permanent work from home.
And personally, I feel letting go of Ben Chilwell will actually be a disaster. Chilwell is one of the most proven left backs in the Premier League as of today. Let's be very honest, there's nothing called as a system in which a player cannot fit. A player can adapt to any sort of a system. At the end of the day, every player has a responsibility. He has to either pass the ball and get his goals and do everything. I might be old school, but I do not believe in this concept of there is a system and this player can fit in and that player cannot fit in. No, it is not like that. At the end of the day, football is to just to pass and to get goals. And every player can do that. And letting go of Ben Chilwell will actually be a very bad decision. I feel Ben Chilwell is actually the answer to your defensive problems.
That's a big statement as well. The only concern that I think Chelsea fans have is his availability. We all know how good Reece James and Ben Chilwell can be on their days. But don't you think Maresca coming into the presser and just saying it is better for Chilwell to leave, was it a bit harsh? Or do you think this is the type of attitude that a manager needs in order to clear all deadwood, if he believes that Chilwell is deadwood, in order for Chelsea Football Club to move forward? Amok.
I think on Chilwell, since the last summer, Maresca has been out told that you are not my player, you can leave. This is happening since last summer, okay? And Chilwell knew. So if he had that, okay, I want to play football, I don't want to warm the bench, he will forget warming bench. He's not even in match day squad also. He's just playing with under 21s training with under 21s. He's not involved in our training also. I don't know where he is. No one has seen him also. The thing is, he is around second
That's true.
most
Yeah.
wage player in Chelsea. So we are paying 250k for James. Next, who is close is Chilwell, who is getting around 220, 230k per week.
And their medical expenses, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So adding all this, see, if he wants to leave, if he wants to showcase that, okay, I'm a player, I'm still around 27, 28. I have around another 6, 7 years left. He can he can lower his wage and then he can leave. That is not happening.
Mhm.
One more thing, probably he knows that he is getting around 220, 230k. So why not
Yeah.
just sit back and enjoy with the money I have? So if he was really passionate about playing football, he would have probably left by now.
Mm.
So I think it comes to money. I don't know. I'm
And
just
and also we'll
exaggerating,
have
but
to look at one
yeah,
thing, like maybe there is something that Maresca sees in him, that he thinks that he's not a good player as per Maresca's eyes. Okay, because if you see, Chilwell has performed well under previous managers, like probably under Lampard, under Thomas Tuchel, under Potter. And Chilwell has been at his best. I wouldn't deny that. I don't know. At the end of the day, probably as a fan,
Yeah.
I'll have to put my trust and faith in the manager, because he knows what is best for the club, and he knows best what is best for the squad and his game and everything. I'll have to give Maresca the benefit of the doubt here, but I still strongly feel that Chilwell is a good answer to our defensive problems, because if I would rate Chilwell above Disasi and Badiashile any day. Even at his worst, he's better than these two.
I don't see
Yeah, I
Chilwell
mean, not
replacing
not
Cucurella.
Cucurella.
Next up, Bournemouth. Very tricky opponents. We've seen them at Old Trafford come and demolish us, but other teams have done that too this season. But they've been on quite a roll under Antonio Rola, who's been an absolutely fantastic manager this season. What do you want to see in this match from Chelsea and your
I
predictions?
would them to be more disciplined from a defensive standpoint, not make too many errors and play according to their positions. I think if that is taken care of, it's going to be a really tough game. I'm not going to mince my words. It is going to be a very tough game. We know how good Bournemouth have been. Even in our previous reverse fixture, it was not an easy game, and then Nkunku managed to score in the 83rd minute. And we know how good Bournemouth have been, right? They managed to beat United 3-0, and they've given a run for their money for other big clubs as well. So it's not going to be an easy game
Yep,
for us, but that we did get a final win today against Morecambe, that would give us some sort of hope and confidence, considering that we've been winless in the last 4 games. I would say a 1-0 win for Chelsea.
brilliant. Suzanba, as a neutral, your predictions for the game, or if you're not a neutral as
No, I
well.
really like the way Bournemouth play, and I think I would envision Everton to play in a similar way whenever I would watch Bournemouth. Um, and what I've specifically noticed about Bournemouth is that investment into the youth academy or the investment into scouting has been majorly impactful for that team. And
Absolutely.
it's really heartwarming to see that they're performing so well given the size of that club and given
Yeah.
where it was just a few years ago. So, of course, I always support the underdogs, but I don't see them winning. A draw or a win for Chelsea.
Perfect. Amok, what do you want to see from Chelsea in this game, stylistically, and also
I
your
think
predictions?
Bournemouth haven't lost their match since November.
Wow, that's quite a
Yeah,
stat.
so their last loss was against Brighton in November something, last match day of November. So we
Hmm.
haven't won last four. They have won all last four. So if they play low block football, then fuck, and then we are doomed. We are losing 2-0 at home. If they
Hmm.
play attacking football, or if they play their football, then probably a draw or win. 2-0 win Chelsea if they don't play low block.
Perfect. Great. From what I have seen against United, Bournemouth are extremely disciplined in all facets of the game and they will come to play. There will be chances for Chelsea and there will be chances for Bournemouth as well. I think it's going to be a fascinating watch. Let us know what you guys think, the viewers, about this game and what the predictions could be. And what do you think about Chilwell's situation as well? We next move on to Everton. As I said, Sudanva, we had to invite you today in order to address the hottest topic amongst media and Everton's fans, which is why Peterborough manager and Sir Alex Ferguson's son didn't bring Ashley Young's son against Everton. The mental agony that has caused Ashley Young and the other fans is just unimaginable. So, have you recovered, or is this just being blown
Uh,
out of proportion?
so I don't think I was actually checking this out on Twitter to see if I don't know his name, Tyler Young. I don't know what his name.
Tyler Young, Tyler
Yeah,
Young.
Tyler Young.
he's
Yeah,
not really a
Tyler
starter
Young.
at Peterborough, and the fact that he even made the matchday squad was whatever the manager's name is. I forgot the name. Yeah. So that, yeah,
Dan
so
Ferguson.
it was just an attempt to see if they were in a good position to bring him on. So I don't think he was entitled to
Yeah.
play the game if there was no need, because for the most part we were 1-0 up. We just scored the penalty in the last few minutes of the game, so there was still a chance for them to come back. So I don't think that was needed, but they got a few photos if that's what they wanted. Post the game, there was a father son photo. Yeah, it is a great spectacle that it's even happening. I don't know if Young will
Yeah.
play here for another season or if Tyler Young will move to another club so that he can face his father again. But I don't think the Peterborough manager was entitled to bring him on if he didn't think that he would help the team win the game. It's fine.
I think that was the answer I was looking for from a rational fan, but I think some people got a bit overboard because I think in the 145 years of FA Cup, a father son duo have never faced each other. So that was what people were getting on at. But on a more serious note, David Moyes is back. We are in 2012, the early 2010s with Everton. A farewell tour at Goodison Park, or Friedkin Group had the opportunity to bring in Graham Potter, but I guess there was some indecisiveness on their end. And that wait basically allowed West Ham to swoop in for Graham Potter, whereas David Moyes, when Everton go to David Moyes, he's not saying no. So is this decision based on nostalgia, or do you think David Moyes is someone who can take this team forward more
Oh,
than
definitely more
Sean
than Sean
Dyche?
Dyche. I was pining for Dyche to leave since a long time. Ever since I even was here. I think I was pining for Dyche to leave the moment he joined Everton. If it was ever possible to hand out 6-month contracts, maybe that would have been the most suitable way to handle these situations, because they are firefighter managers, and I don't want them to be firefighter managers forever. At least I want them to show ambition that they can be better than firefighting managers. And the firefighting was done. And the next season, since there was no fire to put out, at least to begin with, he had to create the fire so that he could put it out again, and so show that, yeah, we came again fighting the fire and getting it out. However, I didn't see Sean Dyche staying here with the new man, with the new investment. I think I predicted this in our first episode when I was here, that back then I don't think there was any takeover in place, and I was just very disappointed to keep watching Everton every week. And there used to be a time when I would be happy that the weekend was around so that I could watch the Everton games and watch the Premier League. But the last few years have been torturous to me with all the managers that we have had: Frank Lampard, Rafa Benitez, Sean Dyche. Oof, it's been. I just make sure that I'm doing something when the Everton game is on so that I don't have to watch it. And it was indeed very torturous. And it's not that I don't support the club. I do want them to win, but I know that these managers have a glass ceiling when it comes to their ambition. And it's not that I don't want them to improve, but I don't even see a sign that they want to improve. Uh, Having said all of that, this was actually a problem when David Moyes was here the last time, towards the final years of his first term at Goodison. People used to say that he has created a glass ceiling for himself, and he would use statements like bringing a pitchfork to a gunfight or a knife to a gunfight when it came to competing against the top four clubs at that point. Ironically, only probably Arsenal and Chelsea were part of the top four back then. It used to be Spurs for a while, and the fourth spot actually could go to anyone at that point. It was United, Arsenal, Chelsea, and then the fourth spot was up for the taking for a lot of clubs at that time, at least. Anyway, David Moyes has been, at least as far as I remember, it's very nostalgic to me. He's one of the last few managers that I used to wait to watch the press conferences. I would have an account with evertonfc.com just to log in and see what he said, listen to what he said during the press conference. Of course, I was just a naive Everton fan back then. However, in his starts at West Ham, since he has left us, of course, his United spell was I wouldn't say a disaster, but I think given that United had won the league the previous season, the expectations were pretty high, and I don't think he matched it. However, I don't think any of the managers since then have matched it. So I don't know if it was specifically a David Moyes problem. Regardless of that, since then, I think his West Ham spell has been pretty decent. I think he took over West Ham in a similar situation when they were fighting relegation. I don't think we are exactly fighting relegation right now, but we are in and around as Daesh wants us to be. So I think he'll safely steer us away. Out of the 13 seasons that he managed Everton, in 9 of the seasons we were in the top half, and that was with limited budget. We were one of the least spenders in the Premier League back then, and all of our used to come in through loan deals initially and then get converted to permanent deals. We had Steven Pinar. We got Steven Pinar in the same manner. We got Arteta in the same manner. They were all initially loan deals that got converted to permanent deals. So he definitely had an amazing scouting network, and I was proud of the way Everton used to manage all of it because I knew that they didn't have the bigger finances that the other clubs used to at that point. And I think given all of it, given that we have new investment, I hope that he knows that he cannot have the same ambition that he used to have all those years ago. Of course, right now it is the first challenge for him is to get us out of this mess that we are in, and a team that cannot score goals from open play. And I think he definitely needs to sort that out. But even I remember back in the day, he used to be really good on set pieces, be it defensive or offensive. So as long as the goals come in, I am happy with it. But if your chief of getting goals is just set pieces, I don't think that will work out. But we are yet to see what David Moyes, after these many years, is capable of. And I wouldn't say that he is my first choice, but I can definitely say that it's not going to be a disaster for the club. But we could have aimed higher and better, is what I felt. But if this is what the management thinks is the right direction, which is stability, at least for the moment, he's definitely going to bring in stability. I don't think there has been any David Moyes team that hasn't had stability over the years, except his. I think he was at Sociedad, and that was a pretty disastrous spell for him. I think that is the only disastrous spell for him, as far as I remember. And I also know that West Ham sacked. Okay, West Ham didn't really sack Dyche. Sorry, sack Moyes, but they just let his contract run out. They were majorly disappointed with the style of football. When you look at it, of course, you can say that football is all about results. But if you just say football is only about results, then you don't even have to watch football anymore. You can just simulate football. You can simulate the scores and put. You can have a randomizer with some bias, and then have the scores be predicted in that particular way. Or that would just make football a very. It would make it a statistic, and the joy of football comes in watching it, playing it, and in being a part of it. So I think I understand where the West Ham fans were coming from, but he got West Ham into the UEFA Europa League semi-final. He won their Conference League,
Yep,
and that's quite an achievement. And
conference.
he had no trophies at Everton. I would say that he has probably learned how to win trophies, which he hadn't managed at Everton.
Brilliant. Has to be one of the most comprehensive replies that we've seen. I think David Moyes, in my eyes, will do amazingly well as long as he doesn't speak Spanish. Uno, dos, tres. You should have had the Real Sociedad account to log into to see his Scottish accent. Uno, dos, tres. As long as he doesn't speak any Spanish at Everton, he should be fine. But coming to this whole point of Moyes coming back, and we've seen managers who have left a particular club, gone on to experience many other experiences and then come back. There's this term called boomerang managers. And Christian, you had done some groundwork on whether people or managers who go out and then come back, has it really been a success? So do you want to throw some light to statistically back what Sudanwa said, even though he doesn't lie? to see stats as much.
Just say a few words about David Moyes. Growing up as a football fan, back then David Moyes was like one of the longest serving Premier League managers back then. From I think from 2002 2003, he came mid season. I think in his first term of 10 seasons, I think their average position was 7th. I think they finished in the bottom half. I think only once. I think their worst position was 17th, and their best position was 4th. And he's one of the 11 managers who I would call the Boomerang Managers to go and come back. And interestingly, David Moyes is the only manager who's managed two different clubs on two different occasions. West Ham twice, and now Everton. This is the second time. So David Moyes is the only manager
Yeah.
to do that. Chelsea, being Chelsea, have had three managers who've had Boomerang managers: Jose Mourinho, Abramovich's close friend Goose Hiddink, and Frank Lampard. Why I would say that this would be a very good second outing for Moyes is because David Moyes is one of only three managers whose second stint at a particular club was better than their first stint. The only other two managers are Roy Hodgson with Crystal Palace, Harry Redknapp with Portsmouth, and David Moyes himself with West Ham. So if you see, Hodgson with Crystal Palace had his second season, I mean his second term, his points per game was 1.24 versus 1.22 in their first term. Harry Redknapp with Portsmouth averaged
Hmm.
1.42 points per game against 1.18 in their first term. David Moyes, West Ham, averaged 1.36 points per game versus 1.22 in their first term. David Moyes has a good record if you go by these statistics. I would expect him to have a good second tenure at Everton. And so again, he holds the record like only one among the three managers who've had a good second return to their clubs. And if you look at Everton's next four fixtures, it's going to be really tricky. Aston Villa at home, Tottenham
Yeah.
home, Brighton
Yes.
away, and Leicester home. So all four tricky in different ways, but I would still back David Moyes to get them out of safety this season. I think their expectations wouldn't be too much from David Moyes this season, just to secure safety, and the next summer with probably with spending and everything, and they would try to bolster their squad and see what happens. Interestingly, one last stat for all the managers who have made a comeback from the first term to second term, David Moyes has the longest time of almost 12 years since he last left Everton, and he's going to come back to Goodison Park. So it's going to be really interesting to see what he does this time. But I'm not going to have too much expectations from him. I think his first job in hand is to get the squad together and secure like safety so that they can stay up in the Premier League next season. And then let's see interesting to see what he will do in the summer and to see how much support he gets from the ownership. It's going to be interesting.
Brilliant, comprehensive analysis. Thank you so much, Krishnan. That was just brilliant. But the common thread in the next four fixtures being there is three at home, and I'm sure the Everton fans are going to get behind Moyes and this team to make sure that they have the best start. Bring back Fellaini, bring back 2010 Everton, and then Everton
Oh,
will be fine.
we, we,
Yeah,
we would die for
long balls
a
into the box, Fellaini heading
2009-10
it in.
David Moyes Everton right now, won't we?
Exactly.
But yeah, talking about that,
Brilliant.
I don't think Potter was really interested in Everton. So
I'm
that was
still
just a
surprised how
media
Potter landed
bait.
a job, seriously.
No, anyways, even if Potter had got Everton job, I don't see him as a long-term manager for Everton because the style which Potter, he's like a what do you say, process manager, but
Mm.
Everton are long far away from all these process stuff and all.
That's an interesting thing to notice because that is the evolution that we would want in a football club to move away from managers who are just focused on getting short-term results, because then you'll only have some short-term results and have a huge period of decline for the club. And that is what has happened with managers like, would even say Carlo wasn't really that much of a process kind of manager even when he was here. And if you think about it, he left the club in a similar state in which he took it, only that the wages now were really high because of the players that he brought in. And apart from that, the age of the squad increased a lot. He brought in Alan, and then
James
Dukure,
Rodriguez.
and then James Rodriguez. And these signings were, although it worked in that particular season, there was no long term strategy in mind. And of course, it comes down to a process. You can't build a football club in a single season. Maybe Mourinho can, by being extremely pragmatic and then getting result after result. But how many Mourinho teams have been successful once he has left? He leaves the clubs that he manages in a mess. I don't know. He has the third season syndrome. I don't
Just
know
that,
what
and
they
not
call
just
it.
that, I'll be very honest with you, Mourinho is not as good as what he was before. And if Mourinho came to Everton, I honestly, I think he would do a very bad job. No offense to him, Mourinho is still one of the best managers I still rate. But as I said earlier, as I said in my previous podcast also, Mourinho's game have become very easy to read for the new gen managers. So even the same thing goes with Pep also. I don't think Mourinho can do wonders with this squad. I think David Moyes is wise. It's a very wise decision, I would feel, not a very tactical genius thing. Immediate objective for him to just get them to safety, and then probably I think one day at a time, and then see what he can do in summer and get the players who he wants, and then slowly start a rebuild from there. But immediately, I don't think they will go to hurry. They'll not do anything right now.
I agree with it. I don't think, and that's also the reason for his 2 year contract instead of a 5 year or 6 year contract. So they want to see what he's capable of doing before committing to him. But right now, my opinion and that of the Friedkin group is that it can't go terribly wrong from this point onwards.
Brilliant. This has been an amazing coverage on Everton. And viewers of the channel, please let us know on what you think. The David Moyes decision, was it a wise one? Was it most based on nostalgia? And then we hope Fellaini comes back as well so that we can see prime
100%.
Barclays Premier League
I would to Hani
football.
back.
Yeah.
And
Where is
I think he's playing in China. Oh, he retired.
I think
Okay.
he's no, no, he's
That's
retired.
bad.
I think he's done with China.
and one more stat just to paint this up. The last time Moyes managed a Everton match, Ferguson lifted
Premier League
his
title.
13th Premier League title, and Brentford were playing in League One, and Arteta was
Arsenal.
playing for Arsenal in midfield. And the crazy stat is Luka Modric was termed as the worst signing of La Liga under Jose.
Brilliant. Let's end it at that. Life has come a whole circle for Everton and for Sudanwa as well. Okay, let's talk about United then. Big performance against Liverpool. As a United fan, I finally felt we competed and competed hard in a match against a top team, because I think the last time United went and scored a goal in Anfield, I think was in 2018 or probably, or even 2016 when Rooney scored a goal at Anfield. So that how bad the record was. And I saw in pre-match that Gary Neville was shoveling the snow back onto the pitch so that the match wouldn't happen, because that would save United fans a lot of embarrassment. But the boys showed a lot of heart. They showed a lot of stomach to fight. And more than the match, I would say I loved the post match press conference of Bruno and Amarim, because they really questioned if this is the fight and performance that they can put against champion select Liverpool at Anfield. Where were these performances? Where were these fight against Bournemouth or Wolves or in all the other performances under Amarim? So it really goes to show that this team at the moment is quite low on confidence, quite low on football IQ, and more importantly, chooses certain matches to turn up, which cannot be a United player's standard. For those fans who always show Bruno is the issue at the club, I thought they got a huge reality check in the game against Liverpool, because I felt he was bossing that midfield. He created problems, but more importantly, as a captain, he was organizing that entire football team who are so low on their football IQ. He was arranging them on the pitch, and he showed a lot more captaincy metal to him. So yeah, I thought if this is the amount of fight and if this is the type of performance, if United is going to go and put forward, then I feel that we won't be relegated. So that is where we are at as United fans. But there was this very important topic that I wanted to talk about. There's this talk on Rashford, right? And his agents are trying very hard. They are on a Euro trip at the moment and trying to sell him to various clubs. So my question to you guys is, they've been at Milan. Is he better than Leao or Pulisic? And if his agents are also in Barcelona, is he really better than Rafinha or Lewandowski? So where do you think Rashford really fits in? Because I remember this Jose Mourinho interview wherein he said Rashford is not a young player anymore, but he doesn't have a nailed down position. So if he were to go to any of these clubs, where do you think Rashford fits in best?
Even fit into either a Milan squad or a Dortmund squad, or even a Milan, Dortmund, or a Barcelona squad as well, right? Now his
Yeah.
agents are extremely desperate for him to find a
Real
position. Probably, I think Everton need a striker. Everton and United, hello. I can't think of anything more. I think I think he would end up in the Premier League. I think he would end up going on loan to a Premier League club in itself. But outside of Premier League, I don't see him performing. And even if he manages to sign for any other club like a Milan or a Barcelona, I don't see him performing really that great. So I think a best bet, I think a safer, wiser bet for it would be for him to go on loan to a Premier League club, try and get some goals, and probably try and move out of Manchester in the summer for a good price. I think that would be a very wise thing to do for Rashford and his agents.
There was this topic that Carragher brought out. I think it was after the United Liverpool game, wherein he said that he's very sad and very angry about Trent, not regarding the performance in the game, but the fact that he's playing for a top European club and also the top team in England. And at this time, he chooses to leave to Real Madrid. And that is the exact same anger or hurt as a United fans that we harbor towards Rashford, because this is your boyhood club and we are in a pickle. We are closer to getting relegated than at the top half of the table. So you have an opportunity to really help the team out and be available, put some performances in turn help your market value improve so that you can go to a better club in the summer with better wages. But I don't think he's helping himself. But that is where we are at United. So same old. And I really am extremely scared because our next game is against Southampton. I'm more confident in top half teams like Liverpool or Man City because our players will choose to turn up. But we have the game against Southampton at home. So any predictions for that
I
game,
mean,
Krishna?
considering the way United played against City and Liverpool, more so, I would say that they exposed Liverpool's weaknesses and the fragility of the Liverpool squad, which is a good thing to see for a rival fan. It would be an easy victory for United against Southampton. I would say that they would go for a 3-0 or a 4-0 win, I would say.
Yeah, I think I was very impressed with what happened in the Liverpool game, and the topic that you brought up about players not turning up for some occasions and only turning up for some occasions is, I think it's got to do with the mindset. Maybe they don't think enough is on the line for other games, and for a club as big as United and with the huge ambition that United have, I don't think that's appropriate. But with Ruben Amorim, I don't know. Let's hope that changes for the United fans, but I would say a draw probably.
Brilliant. Amok, your prediction for that game? Southampton at Old
3
Trafford?
nil United win.
Wow, thank you so much. If this was something that you said to make me happy, then I'll take it with both hands.
Talking
Great.
about yeah,
Yeah,
talking about Rashford, I think West Ham are really interested in.
This is exactly sounding like Lingard at this point.
Amog, it really remains to be seen if United will sell to a fellow relegation threatened club such as West Ham in and around. So we shouldn't, I don't think the Ineos are such fools. But yeah, we are fellow relegation threatened teams and I don't think Ineos will do that. But let's move on to Liverpool. Liverpool have hit bit of a rut and Arne Slot does not seem as much invincible as we first thought, because if you really go and take the game to Liverpool, that defense is susceptible. And we had this chat regarding Tranmere Rovers and the Roy Keane comment on Trent. That game, what Tranmere Rovers is one thing, right? If you, as a fullback, are getting troubled by Diogo Dalot, then you need to go and have a huge reality check, because that night Trent was absolutely plastered by Diogo Dalot, who's had an absolutely horrible season. He's had a horrendous season. He's been one of our worst players from being one of the best players last season. Amog, there have been a couple of players who've been linked to Liverpool in January as well and in the summer, with Kvicha Kvaratskhelia from Napoli being a top contender that Liverpool are looking at in order to replace Salah. But I'm guessing Kvicha is also being linked to PSG. Any other players that you know that Liverpool might go for in January? Because they've had a, you would say, even in the summer, they didn't get anybody of note other than Chiesa, who's also looking to leave to Serie A back on loan, if I'm not wrong.
I think on KS he's not leaving. I think he'll stay. Yeah.
Okay. Mhm.
And regarding Pitch, I think he's off to PSG.
Oh, okay.
So that's my guess. I guess I think PSG have verbal agreement of 75 million euros.
The next game for Liverpool is going to be, I think, a very interesting match because they are going to Nottingham Forest, which is basically 1 versus 3. Chris Wood, I don't know what
Just
supplement
to say,
he's taking.
yeah,
It's there in
he's a
his name.
Shanghai striker. Never to forget that.
Burnley.
Absolutely. But Liverpool away to Forest, your predictions for that game because I think it's going to be a fantastic one. Also, isn't Forest the only
Yeah,
team to beat Liverpool this season? Exactly.
I would go for a 2-1 Liverpool win.
Same
Amok for that
Liverpool
game.
win.
2-1
3-1
Liverpool win.
Liverpool win. Something like
Just for the sake of having an interesting title race, I thought one of you guys would at least say, "Oh, Nottingham Forest
I
win."
would,
But that is where we are at.
I've
Let
always
us know.
observed that reverse psychology works more on Liverpool than actually hating on them. So I don't do that.
Spoken like a true fan with true superstition. So, viewers, let us know what that result is going to be. Also, put in your reverse psychology score lines as well, such that Liverpool can then go down to Forest. But then let's move on to talking of Frankfurt strikers. I think it's only fair that we talk about Man City. So you are Pep and you are Man City and you are in a crisis. What do? You pay loads of money to get out of the situation. That is what Man City are doing. For Man City, summer is already here because they're spending summer fees in the winter and they've already gone on to buy a centre back from Uzbekistan, Abdul Kadir Kuzanov. He is the first ever Uzbekistan player to play in the Premier League. 20-year centre back from Lyon, from League One, that is. Um, and then they're also linked to Omar Marmoush, who's probably going to cost 80 million if they were to get him from Frankfurt, and also Vitor Rios from Palmeiras from Brazil. So all of these signings, right? When you look at a team which is in crisis, you try to make some quick fixes to make sure that okay, I'm going to replace. I have this positional problem in center midfield with Rodri. I'm going to fix that. Kyle Walker is aging. I'm going to fix the fullback issue. But no, City are looking for a rebuild in January. So, a question for you, Sudanva. They bought the centre back at 20 years of age, and he's never played outside League One yet. The first breakout season he had at Lyon was last year, and now City go and get him. Um, are they not a team in crisis? Shouldn't they fix like an issue of centre back that Ruben Diaz is not there? Because this guy is not going to come in and start playing for them immediately. We saw at United we bought Lenny Euro, who's probably touted as a generational talent, but he needed so much time to be eased in to the English game, and it takes a lot of experience. And I also think when you buy in a young centre back, you're so much under pressure because your performance is constantly scrutinized because the smallest of mistakes you made can lead to a goal, whereas any other position on the field, whereas if you're a striker or a winger, for example, your mistakes are not that much crucial. So do you think signing a young centre back in summer is to fix a short term issue, or do you think this is like something that they're doing for the future but already in Jan?
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. I would think that when it comes to centre backs, right, it's a complicated situation because it in theory it should be an should be an easy task, but in practicality it is a task with very few margins for a very thin margin of error, and without experience and for teams like Manchester City, obviously it's a huge gamble. But see, I think with
Yeah.
so many consecutive Premier League titles, I don't think. Of course, it's a crisis for with respect to what has happened in recent history. But I don't think Man City are in any sort of a crisis. Maybe just for this season, they'll just write this season off and say we have had
Yeah.
so many successful
Mhm.
seasons in the past, and it's okay to have a season, to let go of a season, and they'll be back. Obviously, these signings are for the future, and I have a feeling that okay, so now that the title might be slightly out of sight, out of reach, we might as well invest in the future and worry about all of this probably in the coming seasons,
Hmm.
and that they'll be back and again be dominating for another period of time, which I'm not really a fan of, but we can't help that at the moment, can we?
Makes sense. But the other guy, Marmoush from Frankfurt, since I'm from Frankfurt and I've watched Marmoush many times on TV, not in person, I think he's a fantastic signing. I think he has, in his career, seen the hard grind. He was one of the top upcoming talents in Egypt, came to Germany, when to Wolfsburg, when he couldn't speak a word of German, came through the craft, played a couple of years in the reserve team, then had a, I would say, a good season for Wolfsburg, not a great one. But then last year, Frankfurt got him, and Frankfurt and strikers, there's something like forwards, there's something in the water here in Frankfurt, because these guys just explode in Frankfurt. It's not just Omar Marmush. We've seen Luka Jovic, we've seen Ante Rebic, we've seen Randall Kolomuani, all of these strikers. There's something in the waters here. People call him here in Frankfurt the right-footed Salah. He right now plays in a front two, but he can play on the right wing, he can play on the left wing, he can play on as a striker, and he's two-footed. I think he's a fantastic signing. He's very good at dribbling, he's very good at carrying the ball, and he's a wonderful player to also progress the ball. So I think Marmoush is one of the most talked about players in Europe. But as I said, there is something in the waters in Frankfurt. There is also something in the waters when these strikers leave Frankfurt. Jovic, after Frankfurt, went to Real Madrid and has been injured always, never clicked. Ante Rebic became a flop after going to Milan, never worked. Randall Kolomuani, we knew Frankfurt got 90 million euros for him, went to PSG, and PSG are already trying to loan him with an obligation to buy. So that curse is there, and I really hope, because he's going to City, that happens. But yeah, as a player profile, I think he's fantastic, and no doubt he's going to do really well in a City team if everything works out. But coming back to Man City's next game is against Brentford away, where Brentford are one of the teams that have scored the most goals at home, I think, and Mbemo and Visa are in top form. It's going to be a tough game. Your predictions for that?
Probably a City win, 2-0 City win.
I love how Brentford step up their game whenever it comes to these big games, and for sure, I would love to see Brentford give a challenge to Manchester City, and I think they will. I'm going for a surprise 3-2 win for Brentford.
I would say a 1-all draw because Brentford away is always a difficult game. Brentford at home are like they're a beast, right? They're like a very different team. I think they have a good win record at home.
I think they have scored the most goals
Most goals at home.
at home, I think, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
I would say a 1-all draw for Man City.
Brilliant. That leaves us with the most anticipated North London derby.
Yeah.
And I've just wanted to start off by saying that I've started to watch AFTV for the last past 2 weeks again, because Arsenal fans have again started to be. I always choose the periods when I start watching AFTV. Whenever there is something, the Arsenal fans become insufferable. That is when I tune into AFTV. Especially, I wanted to get the reaction of when Arteta said, that he blamed the ball used in the Carabao Cup. So I had to tune into FTV. And also for that Havertz miss, I had to tune into FTV to see how much they Arsenal need a striker. So Arsenal are right now not doing that great, added to the fact that Saka, they're terribly missing Saka. Tottenham, on the other hand, have been going through a very, very rough phase, but things are looking a bit up for them, because they went to Prague to get a goalkeeper just in time for their Carabao Cup against Liverpool, which they managed to win as well against Liverpool with the Luke Bergwall
Yeah.
winner. So this is going to be very interesting, a North London derby. I'm not quite sure who's at home and who's away, but guys, take it away. What do you expect to see in this, and what is your prediction for this game?
Yeah, North London derbies are always very spicy. Absolutely, that's pure Barclays Premier League football, and I just love to tune into North London derbies. A sneaky feeling Ange will come up with something, and given the state that is in right now, and the way Arsenal are going about their business right now. I would like to see more ghee added to the fire. So I would want to Spurs win. I'm
Nice.
hoping that Spurs are able to come up with at least a draw, because even a draw is going to hurt Arsenal a lot. I'm hoping for a
True.
draw for Spurs and possibly a victory for them too.
I want to speak a bit about the North London derby because that is prime Barclays nostalgia for someone like me. I remember that Danny Rose scored a screamer of a goal, uh, and then the fights and like some interesting stats that I like to, some interesting facts and stats, I would say, qualitative and some quantitative. Interestingly, Arsenal and Tottenham have been playing each other since 1887. Okay,
Damn.
but the term North London Derby started only in 1913, because until 1913, Arsenal were a club that used to be in the southeast of London. So only in 1913 is when they built the Highbury Stadium, and supposedly Highbury Stadium is on Spurs turf. So that's when, only from 1913, the North London Derby actually originated. Until then, they used to play, but it was not called a derby game at all. And in Arsenal, in the territory of Arsenal, there's something called as Saint Tottenham Day that they celebrate.
Okay.
So at the end of the league, when Arsenal knows that Spurs cannot mathematically catch them
Mm-hmm.
or statistically catch them, that day is celebrated in Arsenal as Saint Tottenham Day. That is something that is really funny that I found. So in total, there have been about 65 North London derbies. Arsenal obviously have the upper hand. They won about 26. Spurs have won 15. In total, there have been about 8 red cards, LDs, and 8 red cards each, actually. So Arsenal and Spurs have had 8 red cards
Brilliant.
each.
Damn.
Interestingly, Tottenham have had 151 yellow cards in North London derbies.
Brilliant.
That's like a crazy number. And as Sudanva said, no, North London derby is no short of drama. Fourth highest Premier League scoring fixture. There have been 4 games with 7 or more goals. I think the highest scoring North London derby was in November 2004. I think Arsenal won 5-4 in that game. There have been about 15 players who have played for both Arsenal and Tottenham. Yeah. William Gallas, I can think of. I think Emmanuel Adebayor was the last player to
Yeah, I
do
think
so,
so.
to play for both Arsenal and Tottenham. And interestingly, North London Derby is the fixture with the most penalties.
Ah.
And not just most penalties, highest conversion rate in penalties has been only North London Derbies. I think
Mm-hmm.
92% of the penalties that in NLDs have all been converted. So, very, very spicy fixture, I would say. Brings back very wonderful memories. I have a feeling Angie will edge this.
Brilliant.
2-1, I would say, to Spurs, and that would hurt Arteta's ego more than it would hurt the number of points. I think it would hurt Arteta's ego a lot. So, it'll be really fun to watch him cry, and I know I'm wondering to see what he'll complain now. So,
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for teaching us the history of North London Derby. It almost felt like a tutorial on what this fixture meant. Thank you so much, Kishan. Amog, I think there is going to be only one prediction for you. I know who the winner is going to be on this thing, but in terms of score line, what do you predict the North London Derby
I
score line
hope
to be?
Spurs will win, but
Okay,
I think it will be a very high scoring game, around 3-3, or it will be
nice.
2-2, something like that.
I expect to see 1 red card in this game. I don't know who, but at least expect to see 1 red card in this game.
Brilliant. And in this channel, we don't advertise to bet, but I think if you heard us enough, Krishnan has already given us two very good stats: very high number of red cards and very high number chances of penalties. So if you were a odds person, you know where to put your money on. So with that spicy fixture, we shall end this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, Krishnan and Sudanva. It has been an absolute pleasure, not just for us, but I'm sure it's going to be for the viewers as well. We've had multiple messages from viewers asking for Sudanva and Krishnan to be back on the pod, and also telling us how great they enjoyed the stats and the information that we provide on the pod as well. So thank you so much for joining us. And to you viewers as well, thank you so much for supporting us. Our last episode on Indian football has over 3K views and passed over 230 hours of watch time. So that is all because of your support. Keep it coming, guys, and we will be back soon with another episode. And until then, take care, stay safe. be aware of any corners taken quickly. See you guys. Bye.
Bye bye.
Right.